and welcome to Synder. Dasha is here and I'm thrilled to guide you through. In this video, we'll go through Synder's flow from scratch to the final account setup for e-commerce, SaaS, and other businesses. So stay tuned. A quick overview of Synder capabilities you'll learn today. Automated data sync from all your sales channels, per transaction and daily summary sync modes. Accurate records of data in your books with our clearing account. Detailed P&L report by products, subscriptions, and sales channels. Balance sheet report with accounts receivable account, taxes, and clearing account. One-click reconciliation, even for multiple platforms. For e-commerce businesses, smooth inventory tracking in your books, POS and cash transactions management, accurate reports for tax filing, also management of processing fees, automated tracking of discounts, shipping, gift cards, and more, smart rules for sophisticated reports, classes, locations, and receive payments functionality to collect credit card payments in one click. The demo will be structured this way. I will start with the account creation and platforms connection, then we'll check both sync modes, per transaction and daily summaries. Specifically, how to sync transactions on each of the modes, how they look in the books, and how to adjust Synder settings for your needs. We'll also see the profit and loss report, reconciliation flow, and some other useful features. So let me share what Synder is in brief. Synder is a finance management software with several products to help you automate and streamline bookkeeping processes. The main product of Synder is Synder Sync, the product which automatically transfers all ongoing transactions from sales channels like Shopify, Stripe, Amazon, and many others into accounting systems like QuickBooks Online or desktop, Xero, or inbuilt Synder accounting module, or even custom ERP. We'll focus mostly on this product, Synder Sync, but in general, there are other solutions around it to fine-tune the sync results and to automate your work even more, such as invoicing, live reporting software, and other features. So speaking about Synder Sync, the detailed synchronization feeds your accounting system with all the information necessary for detailed reporting, and features like skip duplicates ensure that reconciliation of sales from multiple systems is no longer a painful process. Besides, you can also use Synder as an invoicing tool or to quickly generate a checkout page and receive money from your clients. The idea is to unite similar business tools under one roof. So let's get started. So this is the very first step in the software where we'll create an organization together. It's like an ecosystem that will unite your books and all the online sales channels, just filling all the organization fields. If you're an accountant, you might think of it as of setting up a client. You'll be able to add more organizations later. If you're not an accountant or bookkeeper, but you have one, it's definitely a good idea to invite them right away. Once done, click Next, and now we are to select your sales channels. I would recommend connecting literally each platform, especially if you have an e-commerce store like Shopify with several payment gateways. Like in my case, I accept payments in Shopify via Stripe, so I connect them both to Synder, and Synder will ensure that there are no duplicates and the information is taken from all places. You can always connect additional systems here. And if you have several accounts with one payment gateway, let's say Stripe, you'll be able to connect one of them on the next step. And you can add more platforms later once the account is created. Speaking of accounting platforms supported at the moment, you can connect QuickBooks Online or desktop, Xero, Synder Accounting, inbuilt accounting module, or custom ERP. You'll be able to disable or enable synchronization for any platform at any time, or even undo every change to your books if something goes in the wrong direction. I will show Synder flow on the example of QuickBooks Online, Shopify, and Stripe today, but the process is nearly the same for all other platforms. Next, let's select the sync mode. If you're syncing into QuickBooks Online, you can choose if you want transactions to be synced individually, per transaction sync mode, or in daily summaries. Per transaction sync mode is good if you want to sync every single transaction to your books individually. If you track product costs, taxes per state or country, customer invoices, customers, and inventory quantities. Daily Summaries sync mode is perfect if you have hundreds or thousands of transactions and you don't want to overload your QuickBooks with individual transactions. So you just want one journal entry posted daily from each sales channel. Also, here you can track cost of goods sold, taxes totals, accounts receivable totals, income by product or SKU, and with the Daily Summary sync mode, you can also simplify the reconciliation. Note that it won't be possible to track individual customers, individual products, and their inventory, as well as individual invoices on the accounts receivable account in QuickBooks. So we will start with the per transaction sync mode, and later on I'll show you the daily summaries one too. Next, let's connect your accounting platform. Synder will work with this data in a super secure mode, so no worries. Just make sure you're an admin of the accounting platform and hit connect. Then choose the needed QuickBooks company file from the dropdown if you have several, and grant Synder permissions to connect. And now it's time to connect our sales channels. If you're not the admin, invite the owner through this option and let them securely enter the credentials on their end. Then you'll be able to proceed. If you're an admin, just hit connect. Synder will redirect you to the page with your payment platform or e-commerce where you can log into your existing account. And if you're already logged in, just hit connect or install. So just follow Synder's instructions and that is it. Note that only live payments will show up in Synder. No test mode transactions will appear. And one final step is to select your checking account for payouts. It should be your bank to which your payment provider or e-commerce sends money deposits. So if your bank, let's say, is not connected to the books yet, just skip this step. You'll be able to change the setting later once the bank is connected. An important note. It won't duplicate any existing bank feed records, but it's needed for automated reconciliation, because Synder syncs not only sales transactions and fees to the clearing account, it also syncs the payouts from clearing account to the checking account. And these payouts or settlements are needed for smooth matching under your bank feed. And the next step would be just hitting finish connection and you're ready to go. Now, as we have everything connected, let's see how Synder can be set up. After a free trial creation, you'll end up on the control panel. Here, you'll be able to check the status of your Synder account, so you can see the sales channels connected. You can also see a gross sales report of transactions that were synced so far, and you can see the transactions. The best course of action on a trial would be to check how the results of the synchronization look in your books, tailor the settings a bit if needed, and after you verify everything looks good, subscribe to automate the synchronization of ongoing transactions. So let's go through this process together as well. As soon as the sales platform is connected to Synder, the software imports and syncs around 10-20 recent transactions, and you can also import the data for the last month on a free trial. So technically, you're able to even close the previous month in your books. All the new transactions will be synced automatically on the background as long as your account has an active subscription. So the manual sync we'll do a bit later today is only needed for testing purposes and for importing historical data. So I connected all the platforms to Synder, and the first step will be to check the results of already synced transactions. Let's view all transactions like that, and we'll end up on the Platform Transactions tab. Links on the left lead to the transaction on the sales channel site, Shopify and Stripe in my case. So let's check that Shopify order first. It has several products with different quantities, customer info, a discount, taxes, and shipping. One of the ways to check this transaction in QuickBooks is to click Explain here in Synder under the green sync status, and then Show in QB. For the sales receipt, and we can see that the sales receipt has all of the details. So the customer information is all here, the name, the email, the address, all of the products are here. And we also accounted for taxes, shipping, and the discount. And let's also check the expense the same way. This is for the processing fees. And this is how it looks in QuickBooks as well. By the way, in some cases, we can create sales receipts during the sync of the sale. In some cases, we can create invoices too. In some cases, it actually depends on the platform. So let's say if you're using Shopify, just in Synder, you will be able to choose whether you want your Shopify orders to be recorded as sales receipts or as invoices. For some platforms like Stripe, for example, it depends on how exactly you're using them. Let's say if you're invoicing from Stripe directly, you'll have invoices and invoice payments synced as well. But we'll talk about it a little bit later as we'll be going through the settings. And let's also check this invoice payment in Stripe. So we have the invoice with all of the information, customer info, name, email, address. We have two products and we have taxes and the discount here as well. And here is also the payment, which is applied to that invoice with the processing fees. So let's go ahead and check it the same way in QuickBooks. So in my case here, we have the invoice created with all of the information from Stripe, customer info, products are here, and the discount and the tax are also accounted for here. By the way, if you have maybe gift cards, tips, or things like that, we are also accounting for them automatically. The received payment transaction is also recorded against that invoice, and the expense for the processing fees is here. So I'm satisfied with the sync results. And now let's check where you can find sync transactions in QuickBooks and where exactly you can check the reports. Firstly, let's see the first and main place in QuickBooks we fill in with synced data, and that's going to be our clearing account. We can access it directly from Synder through this button, See Transactions in Books, and if I click on my Stripe account, I will be redirected to my clearing account for Stripe in QuickBooks. So here it is. And if I just open the chart of accounts in QuickBooks, I will see all clearing accounts too, including the clearing account for Stripe we just checked and several clearing accounts for Shopify to manage different transaction types like online transactions, POS orders, and so on. So let's take a closer look at our Stripe clearing account. Everything synced from Stripe will end up here, and for each platform there will be a separate clearing account. Shopify bank account, as I showed previously, and so on. They are created by Synder automatically to mirror the actual money flow. So they act like some kind of holding accounts, though not real banks. The balance of those clearing accounts will be changing correspondingly. So let's say if you sync the sale, the balance will go up just like in Stripe or any other platform when the sale arrives. And when you sync the payout, the balance goes down to zero. Also like in Stripe or any other platform when it makes a payout to the bank. But like in any case, this balance should be aligned to the balance of your sales channel. So if everything works properly, your Stripe clearing account as well as clearing account for other connected processors should always be reconciled, as Synder will update them with new details from the sales channels instantly or daily. Let's also see how our profit and loss report looks after the sync. As you see, different income categories with the corresponding amounts show up here, like accessories income, dairy products income, merchandise income, and so on. And Synder can also apply classes or locations, so you can get even more detailed profit and loss reports with this. So like in my case, you can have a pretty detailed P&L report with a breakdown by different product types that you're selling. And in addition to that, you can also add the breakdown by sales channels like Shopify, Stripe, and other platforms. Synder handles income categorization automatically based on product names or SKUs. So the exact way how it works is as following. This sales receipt from Shopify has the product name Furhead Pink in it. And during the sync, Synder checks if the product with this name or SKU already exists in QuickBooks. And in my case, this product already existed in QuickBooks with the same name and SKU as in Shopify. So Synder just found this product in QuickBooks and assigned the sales receipt to its income account, merchandise income. If it's an inventory product, inventory quantities will also be updated during the sync. So my QuickBooks has the up-to-date quantities on hand. And if you're tracking cost of goods sold, make sure your products have cost and cost of goods sold accounts associated with them in QuickBooks, as we're also syncing the number of units purchased within the sale, so your cost of goods sold amount in the profit and loss report will also be up to date. And if we open this merchandise income account back in the profit and loss report, we'll also find the sales receipt there. Things like discounts, shipping, gift cards, tips are usually fully set up on QuickBooks site. So if needed, you can check the settings for them in the upper right corner when you click on the gear icon in QuickBooks. And let's also check our balance sheet report in QuickBooks. So first of all, you'll have our clearing account here. Second of all, if you will be syncing invoices and if you need to track them, you'll see the accounts receivable account here too. Lastly, you will also find tax details over here. And let's also take a look at how we work with taxes. So if you have tax information in your sales channel, let's say Stripe, like here in my case on the invoice, I have tax details. And if you have taxes set up here under the taxes tab in QuickBooks, we'll be just forwarding the tax information to QuickBooks automatically. So later on, after the sync, you'll find all the tax information in the balance sheet report and under the taxes section in QuickBooks, and you'll be able to use this information for tax filing too. And now, as we've checked both profit and loss and balance sheet reports, let's also see how the reconciliation works. And what you'll see here in the bank feed are the matches that both Synder and QuickBooks already prepared for you. Because as I mentioned, Synder syncs not only sales, definitely, but it also syncs the fees, the refunds, and the payouts too. And the moment when we're syncing the payouts, firstly, we're clearing the balance on that clearing account. So in my case, the Stripe clearing account. And secondly, in the bank feed, you'll find the matches looking like that. So it's really more of the match between two payouts, I would say. One is the real payout that came from Stripe to the bank, and the bank is here connected to QuickBooks. The other one is just the transfer that we created when we sync the same payout. So the transfer is created to clear the balance on the clearing account. And at the end of the day, we just match them like that. They have the same dates, the same amounts, and they are not duplicates of the actual payouts, just in case. They're more of the kind of confirmations that those payouts actually happened. So all you need to do at the end of the month is to confirm this matches in the banking in a couple of clicks, as all the syncing will happen automatically in the background. Now going back to Synder, we can also import some historical data. If we go to platform transactions and click import historical data button over here, on a trial, Synder allows importing 1 month of historical data. So we can select the platform, choose the start date. So we can go from the beginning of February and click import to Synder. You can also go with the sync to your books option, but just note that this button will sync the transactions for the selected time periods right away to your books. So we usually advise to firstly import the data into Synder through this import to Synder option, and then you will be able to sync some transactions in bulk. Now, as all transactions for the recent month are imported, you'll find them in Platform Transactions tab with a blue Ready to Sync status, meaning that transactions are in Synder, but not in your books yet. You can sync them manually in a couple of clicks by selecting several transactions all on one page or even on all pages at a time. For testing, I will go with these transactions only, and I will sync them like this. So I just select them, click Actions, and Sync. All the historical transactions are to be synchronized like this, and you can do this at any time for any period. Even if you come to Synder in December and you want to do the bookkeeping for the whole year starting in January, it's easy. And note that each transaction is synced individually for the most detailed reports. And this manual sync is only needed for testing purposes and for importing and syncing historical data. So all new transactions will be synced automatically as soon as you have an active subscription in Synder. And as you already know, in order to check how one or all of those imported transactions look in the books, just click Explain under the green sync statuses on the right, and you will see what objects were created in QuickBooks and will be able to quickly access them. In case you would like to undo the synchronization, you can always do it like that in one click. You just select the transactions you want to roll back from QuickBooks, click Actions, and roll back. And these transactions will be deleted from QuickBooks. And then let's say if you need, you can change the settings and resync those transactions again correctly this time. Meanwhile, here we can also filter the transactions by their statuses, dates, platforms, types, and so on. And now let's also check the settings in Synder. There are a lot of different cool features, believe me. We'll go through the most important ones to adjust the way how sync transactions can look. So firstly, you have separate sets of settings for each platform. Like in my case, I have for Stripe and Shopify. And let's take Stripe as an example. It all starts with the auto sync feature. Just make sure it's on once you tested the syncing on several transactions. And as long as you have sync credits on the balance, new transactions will be synced automatically. The second setting keeps you safe from duplicates. Even if you try to sync something in QuickBooks and it was already synced by Synder earlier, Synder won't let you do that, so it will be totally safe from duplicates. This setting can also help you assign locations to different transactions. So the example of the profit and loss report I showed, it was affected exactly by this feature. And one more feature here is for the cases where you need to sync transactions in multiple currencies. So one of the multi-currency setup steps is to enable this feature. What's the most important thing in the next several tabs, sales, fees, application fees, expenses, is our clearing account. So this is again this clearing account that is created by us by default in your chart of accounts, and all sync transactions from this particular sales channel, they end up here on this clearing account. For multi-currency cases, by clicking on this gear icons, you can also set up clearing accounts in different currencies. So technically, any bank account in the needed currency from the chart of accounts will be available for selection. It is important to have a clearing account selected here for the correct work of Synder. So it should not be your checking account. If you already maybe have your own clearing account in QuickBooks, you can just select it here in this dropdown too. Just make sure it's the same for all of the tabs containing the clearing account. Moving forward, in the sales tab, you can also adjust the way how Synder treats customers. So by default, we transfer each of them individually to the books, and we use already existing ones in your books if their names match the ones in Stripe, let's say in my case. If no customers with such names as in Stripe exist in the books yet, those customers will be just created by us automatically. But if there is no need for all customer details at all, you can just enable the generic customer feature, select one customer from your customer list in QuickBooks, and Synder will use this particular customer in all synced transactions. Going forward, let's also see the next tab, the Invoices tab. Here you can kind of tell Synder how to treat the invoices if you have any and need to sync them. So in case with Stripe, you can sync open invoices and zeroed out ones. Plus, if you have open invoices in QuickBooks and you want synced payments to be matched against them, enable this setting. And based on customer names, Synder will find open QuickBooks invoices and close them with synced payments. And probably the most important settings are the product ones. So Synder treats products in the following way. It can either create a missing product or match to the existing one based on the item name or SKU. So during the synchronization, Synder will take the SKU of the product from, let's say, my e-commerce store, Shopify, and it will look at my QuickBooks product list and see if there is the product with the same SKU or name as in Shopify. If neither SKU nor name match, Synder will create a product with a type and income account selected here in Settings. If you know that all the product names and SKUs are different across all the platforms connected, you can also use product mapping for matching products by their names. So you click Add Line. On the left side, you have the dropdown with all of your products from QuickBooks. So you can choose, let's say, Beanie with logo. And on the right, you type its name or SKU, how it is in Stripe, let's say. So say Beanie or White Beanie or something else. And the same way, you can create more lines for more products. In case you don't need all the product names and inventory tracking in your books, and you want to track all the income for the platform in a single category for the profit and loss report, just use the common product feature over here. In the second dropdown, you just select this get a common product that will be used on all of the transactions that will be synced going forward. And let's say in my case, it's Stripe product. So I can just double check that it will have the right income account associated with it in QuickBooks. So let's check it together. And it's tied up to the Stripe sales income account. So in my case, whatever I sync from Stripe, doesn't matter what will be the product in that sale, it all will end up on the Stripe sales income account. So we can change it back to the original, meaning that Synder will be syncing individual unique products from my Stripe. And next we have one more feature that can treat the whole description of the charge in Stripe as the product name. So that's mostly the feature for Stripe users. Synder will also categorize the income based on the income categories linked to the products in your QuickBooks. So make sure you have categories linked properly there. And Synder also accounts for the cost of goods sold the same way. And the inventory for this item will also be adjusted in QuickBooks if the product type is inventory. Moving forward, we have the taxes settings, another super tricky part, but let me nail it down for you. This tax settings will be different based on your country and platforms, but the key point is to have this feature on and to have taxes in your sales channel. So in my case, in my Stripe transactions, and taxes enabled in QuickBooks. Then taxes will be just applied automatically, so no additional setup is needed. However, let's say if you don't have your system calculating taxes for you, but you need taxes to be applied based on the location, for example, or on the name of the product, I will show you a little bit later how to do it with our smart rules. Also note, if this feature is off, so apply taxes toggle, Synder will still record taxes, but just as line items. So you'll have an additional product in taxable transactions named like Stripe taxes, like in my case, or PayPal taxes, and so on. Also, for Amazon, eBay, and PayPal users, we have the feature called Marketplace Facilitator Tax. You'll see it right there if you have one of those platforms connected. So in that feature, you'll be able just to select the expense category for taxes paid directly by the platform. Even if technically the platform is paying the taxes itself, and you don't see those taxes in transactions, you still need to account for them and have the record that they are paid. So Synder will record them to the sales transactions and to the expense parts to clear them automatically right away. Next, in the Fees tab, you can also change the expense category for processing fees. And application fees is the menu for configuring the fees of third-party apps connected to Stripe or Square for receiving payments. So you can also set the expense category for them. Next, in Expenses tab, you can also choose the category for expenses. That's usually the case for PayPal, but can sometimes be the case for Stripe and other platforms too. And next, we have the Payouts tab. So just make sure it's enabled, this toggle, and your checking account is selected here. For the majority of platforms, Synder will record transfers from the clearing account to the checking account to reflect the payouts your system does to the bank. If the payouts are not supported for your specific platform, it's no big deal. You'll still be able to create these transfers from the bank feeds, which takes one click, or even can be automated with some rules inside of QuickBooks. At the bottom of the page, we'll also have the multi-currency guide in case you need to sync transactions in different currencies. And at the top of the page, you can also create additional settings for different transaction types. Like if you have cash or POS sales, like I have for Shopify in my case, let's say you want to store them in different accounts. So you'll have those additional settings for them, and Definite will be able to create more ones as well. And make sure you click update every time you change something in settings. So summing up, once the auto sync is enabled, all future transactions will be synced according to this settings adjustments. Transactions that have been synced already won't change retroactively in QuickBooks. But as I showed you previously, you can roll them back and resync them with this new set of settings, so they will be synced to QuickBooks, again with the settings that you just changed. And now let's also see the Smart Rules feature, because this is also a lifesaver for our clients. And actually, previously it was the whole other app of ours, but it perfectly solves complex setup cases, as this is a no-code automation tool, so we have integrated it here for you. It's the functionality allowing you to fill in some gaps in transactions. Let's say you can update products based on the transaction description, add taxes based on locations, categorize PayPal expenses to different expense accounts, assign classes, and other things. So let me show you several different ways how the rules can be implemented. Firstly, in the Templates tab, you can find different rules that are already configured. So let's pick the one suitable for our needs. Let's say this one to assign the taxes based on shipping address of transaction. So we'll just use this rule and we'll modify it a bit. So I click on try it out. And here is the rule that we have. So currently, how exactly it works, Synder syncs a sales transaction to QuickBooks and creates a sales receipt. This sales receipt creation triggers the rule. So the trigger is sales receipt created. Then, in my case, Synder looks at the shipping address in that sales receipt. And if it matches this condition that we have, so if it contains CA or California, then we should assign the needed tax based on location to this transaction. So that's exactly how the current condition works. And if needed, we can add more conditions. So let's say another one. So we do condition, then we select what exactly should be in that condition. Let's say we can do another shipping address, or we can do something else this time. Let's say if the description of the transaction contains orange or apple, and then we'll do action, another block, QuickBooks action to update sales receipt, and we can select the class to be applied. Let's say the class food will be applied to all transactions that have orange or apple in their description. So this way you can extend the rule, you can have multiple conditions. One rule covers one transaction type. So let's say just with one rule, I will be able to cover all of the sales receipts or all of the invoices and so on. And that's it. So the rule is ready. We just click submit and save rule. And here we also will be able to see this rule itself. We'll be able to make it active, disable it if needed, and so on. So now let's see the smart rule in action. So let me show you the transaction in Stripe as an example that doesn't have any taxes. And it also doesn't have, obviously, the class because the class will appear in QuickBooks. So right now we have it synced like that, just the customer information and the product and like the fee, of course, but it doesn't have the taxes or classes. So we can roll it back and resync it like that. And since the rule is already enabled, it's live, it will be affecting this transaction after the resync. And now, as the transaction is resynced, we have both the tax and the class on it. And one more thing we wanted to overview today is our receive payments functionality. With its help, you can use Synder for receiving credit card payments from your clients in a couple of clicks. And the most beautiful part is that Synder will also automatically account for the received payments. An important note, Synder is not a payment gateway itself, but it works powered by Stripe or Square, so one of those platforms should be connected to Synder so the functionality could be available. So with the help of invoicing, you can send out an invoice from Synder and your client will receive an email with an invoice PDF attached and a link to pay it via credit card in a couple of clicks. The invoice can be created in QuickBooks. It will then be available here in Synder for sending out, or you can create it from Synder. It will just populate all the customers, products, and other things that you have in QuickBooks. So you'll be able to create the invoices here in Synder. But again, the main part is that the invoice needs to be sent out from Synder. And once the payment is received, it goes through Stripe or Square, and Synder syncs it back to QuickBooks, closing the open invoice that was initially sent out. And invoices can also be recurring if needed. The logic with payment links is similar, with one exception. There is even no invoice to be sent. So you just create the payment link, which can be shared with your clients or pasted into your Instagram or Facebook account. Or you can use the loan link to be pasted to your website, so it will result in this green pay button with this Stripe checkout page. In my case, because Stripe is connected to Synder, and this checkout page will be shown to your clients once they follow this link, and they will be able to quickly process the payments. So even if I complete this payment right now through this checkout page, it will right away show up in my Stripe, and Synder already picked it up and synced it to QuickBooks. So here it is. So now you know how per transaction sync mode works in Synder, and let me show you the daily summary sync mode too. Daily Summaries is another sync mode in Synder, which is perfect if you have hundreds or thousands of transactions, so you don't want to sync them to your books individually, and you just want one journal entry posted daily from each sales channel. So with Daily Summaries, you can also track cost of goods sold, taxes totals, accounts receivable totals, income. You can even split it by products or SKUs, and you can significantly simplify the reconciliation here. On this sync mode, you won't be able to track individual customers, products, and their inventory, as well as individual invoices on the accounts receivable account. Note that it won't be possible to track individual customers, products, and their inventory, as well as individual invoices on the accounts receivable account in QuickBooks. So let's go and see how Daily Summaries mode works in Synder. As we have data imported, we'll see the summaries here in the Summaries tab. Synder will gather all transactions from each platform daily and combine them into one journal entry. So with Stripe and Shopify, I will have around 62 journal entries monthly in total, as opposed to, let's say, thousands of transactions that I would have in QuickBooks if I was syncing them individually. Now, an important point. Pricing in Synder is based on the number of orders or sales a business has per month, combined from all platforms. So the pricing works the same for both Daily Summaries and per transaction sync mode. As for Synder, it's still the same amount of job, just the result in QuickBooks is different. So now we can see some summaries here, and we also see two columns with the statuses: transaction status and sync status. Transaction status reflects the readiness of all the transactions for the day to be synced to your books as the daily summary. For example, fully fetched means that all transactions from this day are ready to be synced. You can also see fetching status sometimes, in case some transactions are still importing from the connected integration. Sync status reflects the state of the synchronization of the summary to your books. For example, synced will mean that the journal entry was posted to your books. Ready to sync, like in my case, means that you can sync the summary to the books. So it's only in Synder right now. So note, you can have some fetching and pending summaries, usually if the day is just not over yet. So Synder just waits till it's end to grab all transactions that can potentially happen on the day, and then the summary will be available as fully fetched and ready to sync. On the trial, it's also more of the manual mode of the synchronization. And once you have the subscription on your account, you'll have different auto-sync options here. So either you'll be able to enable the daily auto-sync when any transaction is available for the day, the summary will be pushed to QuickBooks as the day is over, or you can go with fully fetched auto-sync, meaning that once all transactions are available for the day, the summary will be available for the synchronization. That's an important point because sometimes in some platforms, some transactions might be pending for several days or weeks. So in this case, if you go, let's say, with a fully fetched auto-sync option, once the day is over, Synder still might need a couple of more days to actually give you the summary as the fully fetched one, just because some of the individual transactions on the sales channel side will be still processing. So once they are ready, the summary also will be fully fetched and ready to sync. And now let's see how the mapping works. At this step, we just kind of tell Synder what parts of transactions should hit certain accounts in QuickBooks, and it can be easily adjusted to your needs. So there are different setup options. It can be a pretty basic mapping. You can also do it by products or SKUs. You can do regions, classes, locations, so feel free to check out our other videos to see how those features work. We'll go with all available options today, so you could see which mapping suits it better. So firstly, mapping by product. If we have this group by SKU feature disabled, all of my sales for the day will be synced as one line in the summary. Like in my case, all of the Shopify sales will go to one certain account in QuickBooks, and here in that drop down on the right, you will be able to select which one. If we enable this setting, Synder will just import the product list from Shopify and from Stripe, so from the connected platforms, and you'll be able to map them out into different income accounts. So even though it's just one journal entry for the day, you can still do the split by different income accounts like that. So just do the mapping for several products and save the mapping so we can go next. And the next feature we have is mapping by region. This toggle is helpful in case you need to track taxes or sales by states or countries, because once it's enabled, Synder will show this region column so you can map different taxes accordingly. And you can do the same for other lines too. And two more features, mapping by classes and locations. So Synder also supports classes and locations, so if you want to categorize your journal entries even more, enable one of those features or even both. And firstly, make sure that you have classes or locations enabled and set up in your QuickBooks, and you will be able to assign them here to the lines of the summary. So in my case, I will use classes to differentiate between Stripe and Shopify journal entries, so you can do similar mapping if you need to see sales by channel. Lastly, Synder will give us the suggested mapping, so we can go with it right away. So if needed, we can just change some of the accounts, like I will be changing some of the accounts for the products that I have and for some of the regions lines. And once done, we just save mapping, and Synder will be able to create new accounts for you if they are missing in your books. And now we can go and sync some summaries. So firstly, if you click on the summary, you will see some kind of the preview, so how the journal entry will hit the books. And if you scroll down the page, you can see what are individual transactions that are included into this summary. And they have the same links that lead to the sales channel site. So we can just sync this particular summary from here, just from this page, if we click sync in the upper right. And now as it's synced, we can check it in QuickBooks. So let's click see in books. And this is how the journal entry looks in QuickBooks. As you see, different lines show up here, and the amounts are going to the accounts we mapped previously. And the descriptions are telling us what this or that line is for, whether it's the amount going to clear an account, fees, income, or something else. And let's also see how it looks in the profit and loss report. So this is what we have as the result. Just in case the profit and loss report, the balance sheet will be just the same as with the per transaction synced I was showing a little bit earlier. And since we also have classes for our daily summaries, we also have the classes breakdown in the profit and loss report. And let's also see how our balance sheet report looks in QuickBooks here. And here we'll also see our clearing account. Synder still can account for the totals of the invoices, so you can still see the accounts receivable account and its balance here. And you can also see the taxes information down the page. And let's also see our chart of accounts. We'll have the same clearing accounts for the daily summaries. Like in my case, they're just slightly different. So let's go ahead and import some old transactions by clicking this Import Historical Data button. So just select the needed platforms, set the time range. Going forward, you'll be able to import months or years of data as well if needed. And let's just import those summaries into Synder first. Once they are in Synder, you can switch to In Synder tab here at the top of the summaries page. So you could only see the summaries that are not yet in QuickBooks. And you can select them all in bulk and sync them all at once like this. And let's say if you want to undo some of the summaries from QuickBooks, you want them to be gone from QuickBooks, you can select them like that, click Rollback. Let's say after that, you can change the mapping if needed. Let's say add some classes, locations, change the accounts or something else. Once the mapping is changed, we go back to the summaries, refresh them, so this new mapping could be applied to them, and resync them with the new mapping. And now let's also see what's available under the Settings tab on the left. So firstly, several auto-sync modes we already talked about. Then there will also be the summary period feature, because you can sync summaries on the daily basis, or you can sync the per payout summaries. So the daily summaries will work in the following way. As soon as the day is over, we will just gather all of the transactions that happened for the day and post the journal entry to QuickBooks. In case you're choosing the per payout synchronization, the summary will include all the transactions within a payout. So you'll have as many summaries as you'll have payouts, and each summary amount will equal the corresponding payout amount. This feature is currently available for Shopify, Amazon, and eBay. So let's say in my case, I can enable the per payout sync for Shopify, and for Stripe, it will be just on the daily basis. Going forward, we'll have also the mapping tab here, where we'll have the most important features that are also available on the mapping. Plus, if you need to sync transactions, journal entries in multiple currencies, you can also enable the multi-currency feature here as well. And there will also be the cost of goods sold feature, which is also available. So we can help with cost of goods sold tracking and inventory asset tracking, by the way, while you're on the daily summary sync mode as well. So say I can enable this feature for the Shopify store, and we'll be tracking cost of goods sold for Shopify journal entries. And let's also see what we'll have under the bank feed with the journal entries. And in the bank feed, we'll also have the one-click reconciliation, because the journal entries will include not only the sales, definitely they will also include the payouts inside of them, and they will be having the same dates and amounts as the real payouts coming from Stripe or Shopify, let's say, or any other platform. So at the end of the month, you'll just have those matches, you'll just need to confirm them, and that's it. So you'll be able to reconcile in a couple of clicks. And once you make sure you're good with the sync, you can finish the configuration by subscribing to any of the suitable plans and automating the sync. As you can see, Synder can automatically sync transactions, fill in all of the reports, automate the reconciliation, update inventory, cost of goods sold, and many more. But don't think it's just bookkeeping, as Synder literally helps you to enhance your business. As all the processes are now automated in your books, you have plenty of free time to invest it into other branches of your business, knowing your numbers from detailed reports provided by Synder. So you can see your most beneficial products, locations, and clients, and grow your business instead of keeping the books. So that's how quick and easy Synder actually works. Now, once the results of the synchronization look perfect, go ahead and subscribe with no per integration cost, unlike other apps, to enjoy the complete automation of your online sales bookkeeping. It's been my pleasure guiding you through. You can also find plenty of useful guides and video tutorials in our knowledge base, and for any additional help, just apply to us via chat, phone, or email, as we're available 24/7. Have a good journey with Synder.